Kettle Moraine High School is a campus of 4 schools. We have a comprehensive high school, and we have 3 themed schools that happen to be charter schools on the campus. The School for Arts and Performance, a School of Health Sciences, and KM Global, our School for Global Leadership and Innovation. We coexist on the campus to offer communities of choice for our students. Those are not necessarily direct career pathways for our students, but they can serve to be that. We look at those as simply a lens for learning for all of our students, so they can choose one of those learning environments that best fits their learning style.
If you click on activities, it'll give you a whole list of activities, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I like that idea.
And they can like click on a piano and it'll play a calming song. And then if they want to have more fun with it, they can change the song up and add more beat or add more rhythm with the DJ equipment.
The students here they're all working on creating an app idea to help solve a local community or school issue. The idea behind it is they're working on innovation and leadership and design thinking.
How our anxiety is changes our brain, how it impacts our body. Social, how it impacts the people around you. Yes.
And
so
what it is.
Yeah, what it is. It'll read about that.
Charter schools, how we've viewed it, is in a very traditional way, which is different than how I think the rest of the country is currently viewing charter schools. The original intent was to have small environments where you could try something new and innovative in a controlled manner. We've stuck close to that original intent. So how can we have these environments and try some methods, some pedagogies, and some teaming in ways we really believe are at the benefit of learners, and charters was the way to go.
With the charter environment, it's really a competency-based learning environment. Once you've mastered, you demonstrate the competency, you go on. You don't wait until the rest of the class is ready. And on the other hand, if you're struggling in an area, you spend the time that you need in order to develop that skill, that competency, and then you go on. So it's a different approach to how we structure learning or recognize learning, and I believe it's much more respectful of the individual.
There's an inherent value in having a campus model that allows for a lot of autonomy, but also shared resources. So we have counseling services and music services and all the kinds of things that you'd find in a large high school still become available to that small school that's within that campus.
So as we look at how we are learning and expanding our charter schools, it's having a direct impact into our comprehensive high school. And a great example can be seen this year in the areas of both computer science and in the fine arts. In both of those comprehensive high school course offerings, students are moving on a continuum that is competency-based.
We're going to build understanding of what conditionals are, right? How we can create those and how computers use that. You're going to make your own new little card game. Okay, so just people around you, I want you to just write down some rules. It's been really fun for me to interact with the charters.
Did we just discard them and pick a new card? We didn't plan for that one.
Let's play and let's learn, and you decide what you want to do and where you want to go, and as you start to prove your knowledge and your competency in mastering that, then you'll get that credit and be able to move on.
If you walk into a comprehensive high school foreign language class, you won't be able to identify if that class is made up of 20 comprehensive high school kids and maybe 7 charter students, because that's all one collaborative opportunity for kids to learn. If you walk by the charter schools on our campus, learning looked differently 4 years ago than it did in a traditional setting. There was noise.
No, you got it.
101. Yeah, 101.
And students sitting in a flexible manner. In the traditional setting, there were students in rows and quiet was expected. So as we shifted instructional practice, active learning, those environments in the comprehensive high school classroom environments started to mirror what the environment looked like in the charter learning environment. Those charter schools have been started by teachers who used to teach in that comprehensive high school.
I work with our music students, not as much as I'd like to, but enough to really keep me fulfilled.
So what you're trying to do is train your air to be using this huge, massive stream of air every time.
So when I'm in that world, I put on my teacher hat. When I walk over to KM Perform, I often have to put on my administrative hat.
There are also different ones that we've written for the website specifically.
This year, are you going to tie together the social media with the I know that was an issue.
We are.
Okay.
Yes, no,
Right.
we are working.
When
I heard about KM Perform and the fact that there was a school focused around the performing arts, I definitely just felt that was a calling, like that was where I was meant to be, because I was very passionate about those things and wanted to pursue them. Our learning involves a lot of critical thinking and problem solving and collaboration with other people, which exposes us to lots of real world problems and encourages us to go out and solve those problems on our own, and then finds ways to incorporate them into things we can do at school, or projects that we can work on to show our learning in that way. And so I think that more independent approach and the freedom to be able to kind of take control of our learning definitely helped going into the OECD test and being able to apply those very same skills into solving and having to problem solve and work with these real life problems in their own creative ways and to find creative solutions.
I love the OECD test for schools. To me, it's an incredibly valuable tool. We've participated for 3 years, and we intend to participate again this year. Our first round was simply with our high school, and we did not use the toolkit that was generously provided. My strong recommendation to other school districts is use that and use it year one.
Our students are, I would say, over-assessed on assessments that give them individual data, that compare them to other students as an individual, or compare them to give them a score. How did I do on the ACT, and can I get into college? So the why for us was more about testing our program and our approach, and how is that preparing kids to be internationally competitive.
Our parents need to be educated in our district in order to support an initiative. The OECD was a huge piece of moving from we're doing a really good job to we desire to do better than a really good job, moving from good to great.
I don't want to compare my students with other students in the county or in the state. That's not the competition. They are going to be working in a global society. And my parents in this district understand that because that's their reality even today. So it's extremely important to me when I say we are the best, that I have a benchmark that would stand behind that.
Like, do you believe it's possible to get a high-paying job without having education beyond high school? Where do you stand on that? How do you feel about that? And then maybe pair that with what do the authors think about that?
Like, there's such a high demand in education that they're actually making a school where you don't even have to look for like where you're going to get your associate's degree. They actually just flat out made a school when you're obviously going to get that. So I think you really need a good education to get a high-paying job that you like, and it's just something that you don't have to endure again.
When we first took the test, we ended up with our population, we didn't have any readers, and I have the literacy lens, but we didn't have any readers in levels 5 or 6. That was a surprise for us. We have a strong culture of reading, especially at the elementary and through middle, and I think the OECD test, having done it now for 3 years, we realized that it does speak to the system quite well.
We had to ask ourselves some tough questions, like, is our curriculum holding some kids back? Could we be stretching more? And we'd have some kids who'd stretch with us. That's a hard conversation to have because we're rigorous and we do well. But we need to remove those artificial ceilings that we sometimes put in just through our system.
We've improved. We had students in that level 5 reading in 2015, and we had students in the level 6 the following year. And one of the main reasons that we attribute to why we've grown is using literacy strategies in all of our content areas.
Literacy in itself is dependent on what can that student read and understand, and how can they convey their ideas, and how well can they write.
Like, you can see the little blurry lines on top too.
We like to have a focus that includes an authentic experience of not just the science, but also the application of the science. We do have more of a nonfiction focus. We do like to focus on scientific writing and scientific reading, but in that we're also going to apply Dostoevsky, but we might even take a psychological look at some of the characters that Dostoevsky might be writing about. We're going to tie that in, but all that has a scientific bent to it. I think really good doctors and really good nurses give kids shots when they don't even know they're getting a shot, and I think really good teachers are able to bring in literacy and all those effects without the students even realizing it.
We are trying to give teachers permission to explore how do they best meet student needs and do that in a continuum of learning progression rather than to simply have a seat-based, time-based structure to learning.
They had the protective protein, they wouldn't get sick anyway, so they were removed from the group because it would create bias in the experiment.
So was there a placebo given to anyone? That would be control.
No. No.
It wasn't? There isn't a control. There wouldn't be a control. Okay.
Right.
I feel like it's made me more aware of the curriculum. Every student in the room, if there's 30 students in there, it could be that 5 of them are working on algebra and 7 of them are in geometry, and there's 10 in algebra 2. Within that, the students that are in algebra are all working on different problems at the same time as well. So it's very personalized to what do they know and what do they need more help on. I think it's a little bit less preparation at home because I'm not preparing a specific lesson to go over with all of the students, but I also need to be more prepared because I have to be able to answer anything at any time.
We know that learning is not a linear route, that there are ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, and we want all students to be supported in their learning and stretched in their learning.
It's the difference, not
Right, we're looking for a difference, so we know one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative.
Math classes in Can Perform is kind of a hybrid model. So a lot of our content is derived from taking an online course called Alex Math Program, and then also being able to work in seminars with our math instructor, Mr. Anderson.
And at the end, so what are the signs of our two binomials?
adding.
Adding, right, they're both pluses.
It's not all about the arts, but it's the idea that you will perform and you will demonstrate and you will defend your idea to a public audience. So for us, performance is defined by, is it an authentic audience?
What did you mean by that?
Nothing.
No, really, what did you mean by that?
Nothing at all.
That wasn't nothing.
It was.
Engagement will drive academic achievement. If we focus solely on engaging our students in deep learning, the data will follow. That has proven to be true on our standard measures, the typical assessments that we'd give at the high school level. The OECD, for us, it captured it even higher.
As we've taken the OECD test a number of times, we've seen our scores improve, and we've also seen that the scores in the terms of the efficacy of the learning and the feelings that students had about their effectiveness of their math environment also improved. We don't see that as an accident.
One of the things that I learned about our students' attitude towards science that I found interesting is that most of our students don't believe that they will use science in their future. And so we were ranked below the national average on that question, and that to me is interesting when we score consistently higher than the national average.
And for acetic, it also has hydrogen at the beginning, so you know it's an acid. And this is the formula for acetate, and acetate always means ic because ate always means the suffix ic, and same with phosphate, phosphoric.
Very good.
So to me, that's a good growth edge for us at Kettle Moraine, and to think about the possibility when students see the value in science as a skill whether they go into a lab in the future or whether they go into marketing or whatever that is, they're going to use the skill of taking information and making decisions on that information and using it to solve problems, which is science.
What we did with that as a staff is, and it fit our school model very well. We had every staff member, whether they were a music teacher or an art teacher, teach a seminar with a science teacher. So they made sure that they were approaching science with their kids from the lens of learning, whether it be art or theater or writing or music, in a way that our students could relate to. The next year, their affinity for science went up a little bit.
A couple of examples that were informed by the results that we received include implementing an advisory at our high school and expanding that advisory. So as we saw the strong relationship factor being reported under school climate with our charter school, and asking why don't we have that as strongly demonstrated in our comprehensive high school, teachers asked, what can we do? Some of them actually took those very questions and used them as exit slips regularly with their students.
One of the challenges whenever you have a campus like ours where you have 4 schools, you run the risk of competing in a negative way. So it's very important when we roll out data publicly that we are talking about what our district is doing with that data from a district perspective. And when we talk about that data internally, it's to look honestly at what the differences are and how we can affect change. We couldn't do what we do with the data if we didn't have leaders that were willing to be open and transparent about their practices.
Jill is working at home right now because she had a ton of stuff turned in yesterday, and now do I need to go put that on a calendar somewhere so people know where she is? What about when she's working at night doing something, but the high school staff is not doing that?
We've got to figure out how to define that for all teachers, not just for global teachers.
There are people who start their day with an hour-and-a-half prep, and there's people who end their day with an hour-and-a-half prep. Okay? There's some opportunities to do the right thing and grant that professional courtesy if it's the right thing to do.
So then how are you having them sign out up here?
And we're not. And that's what I'm saying. So
we're all doing some of this. We just need to talk about it.
We're teasing that a little bit.
Yeah.
In building a culture of distributed leadership, we've learned a lot of how to work together and push each other and challenge each other and question each other. And through the years, we've built the safety and a culture of safety where that can happen.
So is it sharing with Connie so that we have a combined list of daily attendance?
Our charter directors and our principals believe in a very flat leadership model. It's something that I brought into the district, something I experienced before I ever became an educator. And to me, it's an all hands on deck in getting the work done. So title and hierarchy have very little meaning other than accepting responsibility when that's the need.
We're always willing to try something new for the best interest of kids. The shift in thinking from thinking as students in terms of their grade level and their age, but instead thinking about where they're at as individuals and finding ways to empower them to make some of their own educational choices, that's rejuvenating as a teacher.
Every teacher in this school district is on that journey and expected to be on that journey. The degree to which they can be effective in that journey is dependent on lots of factors, their school population and the theme of the school or the age level that they teach. But it is the expectation that we personalize for every child.
As we learn from each other, we set up opportunities to push the boundaries in all areas, and the community affirmed very resolutely that personalized learning is not for some students in Kettle Moraine. It's not something that's contained within a charter environment. They expect personalized learning for all students in order for them to reach their full potential.
I believe as a former special ed teacher, all great things come from how we teach special ed students. And we've always done individualized educational plans for special ed students. We should do that same thing for all students, and I think they all deserve that.